All right. Hey, everybody. So glad you could join us again today for another God Talk. I'm with my dear friend, Pastor Joshua Bradle from Louisiana. He's way down in the
That's
south
right.
in the heat. And as most of you Albertans know, we're still kind of chilly up here. But it is such an honor to have Pastor Josh with us. He is a dear friend of mine. Him and Lacey are both so precious to Jamie and I. We love you guys and so grateful for him. And you spoke into my life at a very young age. And I'm
We've
so
yeah,
grateful
we've known each other for a long
for a
time.
long time. I remember just before I proposed to Jamie, even I showed you the ring before I went and did it.
Yes. I
So
mean, that's a long time.
yeah, we've been married coming up 12 years this summer. So it's like
That's amazing.
it's pretty wild.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same lane too, because I guess September will be 13 for us. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, man, just thank you so much for being on with us today. Just an honor to have you.
oh, of course. I'm thankful. I'm honored to be a part. I really am.
Yeah. And so, what we're wanting to do with these God Talks is just kind of really just share just a word of victory that people can look to the word of God, can hear, just a voice other that's separate from what you're hearing in the world, that there's not much hope going on out there, but
Yeah.
in the word and in the church where there should be so much hope and just faith in who our God is and what he's already done for us, especially just
Amen.
celebrating Easter this past weekend. And,
Yes,
I'll just let
absolutely.
you kind of lead us off here. One thing that you had talked to me about just a little bit in before we started this whole conversation was just about the press and kind of what we're seeing here right now and using it to our advantage rather than just letting the pressure that we're experiencing for not being able to go outside and, just everything that's natural coming on us that we're not able to do, a lot of limitations. And you had made a word about leveraging those limitations. And I would love for you
Yeah.
just to speak to us about that and encourage us today.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when we first started off this season of just quarantine and everybody trying to stay safe and stay at home and stay healthy, I think even Lacey and I, we were like gung ho, like, let's do this. Like, we're going to be the best version of ourselves. We're going to grow. And I think where we're at right now, Joel, we were talking about this. Now we really are, we're in the press of it. We're in the thick of it because it's all kind of lasting a bit longer than we had thought it was going to and we intended. And so now that the length is really coming into play, that length is testing our strength.
Right.
And I think it's important for us to realize that this is what faith is intended for. And really, we have three different choices that we can choose during this time of quarantine and really potential hardship or difficulty for everyone. And everybody's difficulty or I guess hardship, it varies, whether that's your job, whether that's all your family being at home and you're not used to that, or even ministries, trying to figure out how to go online and do things like that. Either way, I think this situation is pressing all of us. But I think what's important about it is that faith was designed for the press. In fact, faith was intended to be pressed. We read that in James chapter 1, that when our faith is tested and tried, what does that mean? When you feel the pressure. And actually, if you keep reading James chapter 1, it says that if we let that pressure really get put on our faith, that is when it's really turned into pure gold.
Right.
And so, like I said, we have three choices. We can either choose to let this make the worst of us.
Yeah.
We can try to just maintain and hold on and stay the same, or we can choose to let it make us better. And really, that is what faith is for. And so it was about a week into quarantine. Lacey and I were just praying and just like, Lord, what do you want us to do during this time? What should we do with Go Ministries? What should we do with the internship that Go Ministries has? And then how are we supposed to conduct our personal lives? And I just felt it on the inside of my heart. And I heard him say, turn your limitations into leverage. And that's really helped motivate us. And I think that's what we need right now. I think we need motivation. I think there's a part of our life that we get used to getting motivation from external stimulus,
Right.
where we can go out and do this, or we can go out and do that. And we don't have that. So really, one of the things that we've had to grow in is becoming self-motivated.
Yeah.
Not just motivated by this task or this event or whatever's going on, but just saying, okay, I'm going to be motivated within myself.
Right.
And we experience some limitations, as so many people have, ministries, churches, families, jobs alike.
Yeah.
And that word has really sustained us. And so we went to work on it right away. Because really, when it comes to leverage, I wish I had some kind of structure here, but you have weight on one side. And then really, if you're wanting to balance out maybe the weight or the pressure that we're feeling. So say on one side of the scale, we have this quarantine. or we have this difficulty. Maybe our household income has been affected. Maybe our jobs have been affected. Maybe just the relationships within our own family and our homes have been affected. And we're feeling, what are we feeling? We're feeling all that pressure, right? We're feeling maybe all those things coming against us. But I love what you said. The world doesn't have hope, but the word is the tool that God gave us to give us hope. And we have that hope. Like, the world is kind of like lost in a sense. Like, I don't know what to do during this time, but I believe that's why the church exists. And I think it's amazing the progress that the church has made in the last several years to get up and running online and with TV, because now the church has a huge surplus during this time when not just the church is needing it, but the world is needing it. Anyway, I have so many too, like, biblical examples that we can read through, but really Joseph is one of them. You know, you read in the book of Genesis, and the Pharaoh in Egypt had a dream. And, you know, Joseph is imprisoned at the time, and he's locked up. He's falsely accused, right? This guy experienced a lot of hardship and a lot of limitations. And all of a sudden, you know, he has that dream, and he goes to Joseph and says, hey, I want you to help me interpret this dream. So he interprets it, and obviously we see that there's going to be 7 years of harvest and 7 years of famine. And I believe Joseph is an amazing example of turning a limitation that they could foresee in the future. And he said, wait, I know how to turn that limitation into leverage. Let's take this abundant harvest we have right here, right now, and let it propel us forward. And Joel, you talked while we were on the phone just a bit ago about how this will change the church as a whole forever. And hopefully it can do the same for us on an individual level. Again, so when our faith is pressed, and how is our faith pressed? It's when a circumstance or a situation becomes adverse or difficult, and it starts, what is it? I just love this. I get so stirred up, got goosebumps all over. But it puts a press on faith to show what it's truly made of.
Yeah, you bet.
And you read in James, it talks about letting faith endure. The press on your faith helps you endure. And so it's important that we don't avoid the pressure or the difficulty, but we allow God in the process of all of this to reveal to us things that he's been maybe wanting to work on.
Oh, man,
you know, maybe things he's been wanting to speak to us about, maybe even to get our butt out of the boat to walk on water, you know, right? If we've been lagging in something, that he's like, okay, now is that time to do that. So anyway, turning limitations into leverage. Yes, that concept that God really deposited into our hearts at the beginning of the season. You have weight on time, and really what's going to help is if we can kind of try to lift weight off of us a little bit. But what you do is you take weight and pressure and you apply it in the opposite direction to help create a balance. And I believe that is what we can do when we embrace some of this difficulty that we're all facing, you know?
You bet.
Anyway,
yeah, that's good. So one thing, like, you're even just with your little balancing demonstration there, like, we don't even necessarily wait for, you know, the quarantine or what's going on right now kind of lift. We can actually start leveraging it, even though all the pressure may stay the same on one side of it. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. And that is exactly right. And I think some of those circumstances, what they end up doing, I think, is they put pressure on our outer selves, you know, like our life and decisions that we would make or whatever. But again, as we let that circumstance and let God speak to us in that circumstance and give us hope and give us that strength, like, God, you gave me faith for this specific season. And in reality, and I know I'm talking, I guess, a lot about difficulty, but I think it's just because we're all facing difficult times right now, and it's a really relevant subject for us. But what I love about this, every story you hear and every story you read from this book, the people in there aren't in there because everything just was all rainbows and sunshine for them. They're in here because they're a testament of what? Faith and the goodness of God. And I believe, really, more than anything, this is a book of encouragement. Some people are like, oh, you know, I need to read my word, or this means this, or study it. But really, it's encouragement. Look at how many people face such difficult things. And yet this is proof that, oh my gosh, our God is so real. And he always comes through, and he's faithful at the exact time we need it. And he's always faithful to his word. I get all teary-eyed thinking about it, because he really is faithful.
He is. That's so true. You know, maybe one thing too, Josh, like with like just maybe you could even just maybe speak to this a little bit too, like just the importance right now, something that's been stirring in my heart a little bit is about just really pressing in, taking this time to really pressing into the Lord. And what I mean by that is not even so much, okay, this is what he's promised us. And yeah, that's all true. We can know his promises, but I'm really, for my own self, I'm really wanting to have such a close relationship with the Lord when this is done, that I want to be going the way that I went into this. I come out of it in a different way. And in regards to like what you're saying about the pressure and regarding, how I can balance that, one of the ways that I've been finding for myself is really getting to know the character of God. And just like you said, he's faithful. Like, even though it's what's going on externally, it sucks. Like, flat out, it's not fun. I mean, for us, like, even in our cold weather, like, our parks are closed. And, like, there's not a whole lot we can do externally, but doesn't we have to be trapped in our relationship with the Lord. And so could you maybe tap in on something? And maybe I'll just, before you maybe say something, I want to just let kind of those that are watching us, like Pastor Josh and Lacey, they run Go Ministries International, which is a phenomenal young adults internship, and they travel around doing just amazing church activities, outreaches, and it's phenomenal. And you've seen a lot. One thing that you mentioned that I really liked was that you've seen so many different changes, even in generations. So you've had a whole youth group that came through, maybe your organization, they went through the Go Ministries, came out on the other side of it, and now you got a whole nother generation coming in that's a totally different generation. And so the experiences are so different. And so maybe you can tie in, like, just what does it look like to press into God, developing a relationship with him in this time and in this season, and how it looks like even for the interns that you're working with now, and even maybe parents that have, teenagers at home, what that looks like and how we can be an encouragement to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I mean, this isn't always spending time with Jesus and having a relationship with him is so important, because really when you squeeze something, I mean, you can just imagine it. I don't know why I have a lot of natural just examples today, but even if you just imagine a piece of fruit and you squeeze it, what's on the inside really does come out. And again, even according to natural reports, we don't necessarily know when this will end. I think it's projected at the end of April or beginning of May, but it's been extended once. It could happen again. Yeah. And so what I think is important, like you said, diving into your relationship with God, the more that we pour him and his word into us when the difficult time comes, no matter how long this thing will last, that's what will come out of us. So again, if we fill ourselves with faith, then when we're squeezed on the outside, and we see examples in the word and all those amazing people who went before us, that said, we're pressed, but we're not crushed. Yeah. And I think that's so important. They're like, okay, we're pressed, but that pressing is making us stronger. It's compacting our faith and making us stronger and more, so that it won't break. But taking this time, at least for me and like Lacey and our family, we have dedicated in our schedule more time. Really, it's not become like a retreat, so to say, or so to speak, but it's more, we're taking this time to just pour more in, because we can have the extra time to do that. And I think that's so important, because again, during times of pressure, you want to make sure the right stuff is coming out. You want to make sure words of faith are coming out. And I was teaching our interns this morning on faith and confession. And again, confession isn't just there to produce our faith. It's actually the product of our faith. It's because we believe, we speak. And yes, we know that life and death are in the power of the tongue, so that our words, they really do have power. But at the same time, if we're just saying it and it's not a real strong belief, then they could just be empty words. That's why we believe confession should be fueled by faith. It's not the other way around all the time, where we just speak and then it helps develop that faith. It really is. It's all one system. We believe, therefore we speak, and out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And really what we fill ourselves up with, that's going to be the outflow or the overflow of our life, of our words, of our actions. Absolutely. And so I think, just for a moment, this just came up in my heart, but even to fathers and husbands as the head of your households, and I'm going to touch on that just for a moment. Head of our household, I think it's easy, at least in the past, and even when I first started as a husband or a father, it's easy to gravitate towards the natural roles of the head of the household, when in reality, that's more of a spiritual position than it is a natural position. And as fathers and as husbands, we have the amazing opportunity to take this time and lead our families, Joel,
Yeah.
into like, hey guys, this is really, I mean, it's a press for everybody. So our children will learn, our families will learn by how we lead by example of this is how we do it. When things get tough, the first thing we run to is the word. We run straight to God. He's got the answer. He's got the solution.
Yeah.
And anyway, I know you had talked about just experiencing different generations of young people.
Yeah.
You know, Go Ministries has been doing this for almost 20 years. And so we have some experience just about the transition and all the different ages that come up and how young people are different now. And one thing that I brought up with our internship not too long ago was there'll be parts in movies and it's like the most serious part of a movie, like the greatest test or the most difficult time or the most epic battle. And all these interns are just laughing the whole time during it. And I'm like, wait, I'm wired so differently, you know, like I'm wired so much more serious. And I'm like, why are you guys laughing? Like that guy just lost his life, or if it's a war movie, that guy just lost a limb, or, you know, something, and they're laughing. And I said, why do you guys do that? And I just asked them, and they said, honestly, they said, it's because we really don't know how to deal with conflict or things that are really serious. And so we just kind of laugh at it and kind of just, you know, slough it off.
Right.
And I go, wait, is that for real? Like, and I asked them, I said, is that just you? Or is that like everybody? And literally everybody raised their hand. And I go, oh my gosh. And that situation opened up my perspective so much on how to minister to young people more. And again, I was just teaching them this morning, and the last few weeks I've been talking to them about not avoiding conflict.
Yeah.
I said, avoiding conflict really is a decision made out of fear.
Right.
Because either, and fear comes from things that we don't feel strong enough to go up against,
right.
or fear comes just from the unknown.
Yep.
And that's what our young people have said for years is when it comes to conflict, we just don't know how to respond to it. And the natural inclination is to fear what you don't know.
Right.
But again, God has given us this. And Joel, we talked about this too, and maybe jumping the gun by getting to it too early, but we have to choose this moment to get up higher. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about a friend of ours. His name is Joey Roberts, and he had his product line totally geared around that concept about get up higher. And we know that according to God's word, his ways are higher.
Right.
His thoughts are higher. Now, they're not too far above us, because we also see in the New Testament that he brought us up to that higher place to see things from a different perspective. Yeah. And I think getting a more aerial view on what's happening. Again, we were talking earlier, realizing this is temporary. And that's what we've been teaching our young people is the conflicts that you will face, they're temporary. And I think there's just such comfort and confidence in the fact of, okay, this is temporary. I can just make it through. I remember a few years ago, I went on a really hardcore health track and just eating right and running. I mean, I ran like 2 or 3 times a day. And when I first started, I'll just be honest, I couldn't run.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything. I would just do a walk. I'd be on a treadmill at our apartment, and I get on that and I put the incline up a little bit. Yeah. But I could barely last 5 minutes. And the goal for cardio is 20 minutes or higher, because that's when you really start seeing some results. And I just couldn't do it. But what I started to do was create short-term goals. Yeah. And by creating those short-term goals, it helped me accomplish long-term goals. So I'd be like, okay, just make it a quarter mile. Yeah. Okay, just make it a half a mile, then 3/4 mile, and then a mile. And eventually I was doing miles, like several miles. And I was teaching our young people, this is how you view it. When a conflict happens, just say, this is just one moment. Yep. It's temporary. I can accomplish, get to this mark, and then you set another mark. And maybe that's how some of us, families, adults, and if you're a parent of a teenager or a young person, creating short-term goals. Like, okay, let's get through week 1 of quarantine. Yeah, right. Okay.
Totally. Yeah. That is so right. It's so good.
It is. So week 1, and then week 2, and then week 3, because if we only look at the long haul and we're looking at ourselves like, I can't make it that long haul. Do the short-term goals.
Do the short-term goal.
That's what it's about, you know?
Man.
Anyway, so I'm teaching them not to avoid conflict. And really, as believers, this is the perfect moment to not avoid conflict, but embrace it. Because it is that conflict that creates that pressure that's going to form our faith and forge it into something so much greater than what it was before here. So again, we have a choice. We can either regress, stay the same, or we can be like, this is an opportunity for growth.
And that's so good. And like when you're just even mentioning about short-term goals, like you just showed me beforehand, you and your son is 8, right? Is that?
He's 6.
Oh, he's 6. He's 6. Sorry, he's 6.
Yes.
You guys had made with your time together that Pikachu Lego set.
Yes.
And everyone, look at that thing. That thing, man, that's solid. He said it's about 13 inches tall, fully solid.
Yeah.
And again, short-term goals, like you didn't do that all in one sitting.
No,
that's a process.
That's right. Yep. So I was telling Joel, we have a daddy morning once a week, every week, and it's Thursday morning. And we'd spend 1 hour of our morning together building this wonderful guy. And Grayson would want to do so many different things.
Right.
And he'd be like, okay, like this is taking so long. I don't want to do this. The honesty of children, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
Really. But as adults, sometimes we've just learned to mask it. But we're feeling the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like we're in quarantine. I don't want to do this long. Like we're just like, oh yeah, we're fine. Yeah, right. We're totally good. We're fine. We're acing this.
Oh man.
But the honesty of children. Anyway, he didn't want to go through the long haul.
Yeah.
And so we would just do an hour at a time. And finally we finished it. Again, it's kind of a funny thing, but he got it in October and we just finished it in March.
That's great.
But we did it. Because we did short-term goals.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a great way to accomplish something,
yeah,
you know, and to have
I like the way that you said it. That was running through my head too when you were just talking about it. So like this week, like, okay, Lord, what's my relationship with you going to look like? Like I want to know more of your character this week. And that's something that I've been doing. Lord, I want to see more of your faithfulness. So that's just something I've been stirring myself in and just looking at the faithfulness of God. And at the end of this week, it's like, man, yeah, like my faith is built up. My trust in him is built up in this place.
Yes.
Of, hey, he's faithful. Okay, what's my second week going to look like? So rather than making, okay, I'm going to know God like this, and it's going to be, vast and expansive, and I'm going to know all about him, just shorten this up. What can this time look like? What's one goal that you have in your relationship with the Lord? At the end of this time, I want to know him. If he's my provider, I'm going to just get into this time with him. And so when I come out of it, knowing, he is a provider to me, right? Not only just financially, but emotionally, he's a provider to me. He's a source to me. And so that's something that I've been doing. And so I love the way that you illustrated that, like just even for your own personal self. It's not, I'm going to run a mile right off the bat. No, but set something like, man, that's one thing. I do not want to waste this time. And we see that in scripture so much, redeeming, like the Lord is able to redeem the time. So even though we're stuck naturally, we are never in quarantine in our soul. We don't have to be in quarantine in our spirit. Just really letting the Lord, be God. He's bigger than this. And so I want to I so appreciate your word that you brought to that, man. That's so powerful.
Oh, absolutely. I know when we first started quarantine, just kind of funny. I didn't mention this to you earlier, but when we first entered quarantine, I was like, woo, like, yes, this is awesome. Our life is very busy and I'm a homebody. So I like to be at home when I can. Lacey's the opposite. I'm more the introvert. She's more the extrovert. And I'm like, we get to stay at home. I'm like, yes. Yeah. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But the first week I totally did. It was wonderful. I treated it like vacation. I just spent time at home and just spent time with the Lord, spent more time with my family. Again, for those of you who may have been like, man, we've been so busy lately. This is an amazing opportunity to be able to spend more time with family. And so I would just encourage everyone, like, take that time.
Man, what a gift.
What a gift. It really is a gift.
Man, that's so good. That's awesome, man. Did you have any other last thoughts that you wanted to mention before we say bye to everyone?
Oh man, I mean, so many thoughts, but I just want to encourage everyone. You guys, you are doing a great job.
Yeah.
I would encourage you not to focus on what you should be or where you should be at way out in the future. Just take each day at a time. I mean, really, this walk of faith, that's what it is, right? It's step by step. The just shall walk and live by faith. And it's a step-by-step thing. And I really do. I'm so passionate about that. Short-term goals or short-term steps, because it's less discouraging. Like, okay, what am I going to accomplish today? Let's go after this. Let's go after that. And the more success that you have in the short term, the more momentum you'll build long term, and you'll come out and be like, wow, like I'm thankful for that time.
Absolutely. So good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome, bro. Well, Josh, thank you so much for joining us, man. I so appreciate that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. I love doing this. I'll do it
Yeah.
as many times as you want to. And to all
Cool.
of our Canada family up there, we haven't been up there in so long. Hopefully we can come see you soon. Well,
Oh,
depending, but we'll
right.
see.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if people wanted more like kind of resources from you guys, like you guys have a website. I know, do you guys do podcasts as well? Or is most of your
Yes,
stuff?
actually,
Okay.
we just kind of rebooted up our podcast. So
Yeah, I
yes,
thought
we
I
have
saw
that
that,
as
so I
well.
wanted to make sure. So it's just Go Ministries.
Yeah, so the website is goministries.net, and there's information on there. And obviously following our social media stuff, and there's also links in the bios and the
Yep.
profile stuff for you to find there. But yeah,
Awesome.
it's just Go Ministries International for the podcast. And obviously during this time, we've been taking it to up our online content. So you're starting to see more of that too. But we have a YouTube channel. You're going to find 2 different Go Ministries on there, but one of them is us. And you can kind of recognize it by the green logo that we have
Right.
on there. But yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So if you want to help yourself to that, guys, it'd be a major blessing to you because that ministry has blessed my life personally, and I'm still blessed by it. So thank you so much again, Josh. Love you, bro.
Yes, of course. Love you so much. Have the
Awesome.
best day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.